onto the macro data, we have the numbers coming in on WPI for the month of May, and seems like a good one because WPI on the month of May has eased to a 14-month low, and in the month of May, the inflation stand at 0.4%, and that's a decline from 0.8% that was seen back in the month of April as well. Other than that, the food inflation has also cooled off to 1.72%, while the other than those numbers, it's the core inflation that has also cooled off to 0.9% versus 1.5% on a month-on-month basis. So across the board, we are seeing the WPI numbers cooling off and indeed making it to a 14-month low figure as well. But with this, let's also welcome on board Madan Sabnavis, who is the Chief Economist at Bank of Baroda, joining us on the show right now. Madan, good afternoon, and seems like a good number coming in from WPI. If you can help us understand where the numbers stand vis-a-vis your expectation, as well as how do you see the numbers going forward?
Yeah, good afternoon. I think this was very much on expected lines because the WPI very closely tracks what we see in the CPI. And we had seen that the CPI inflation number had benefited a lot from food prices coming down. So if you look at the internals of the WPI inflation numbers, it is the primary articles which have registered a negative number, primarily on account of food items. And similar to what we had seen in CPI, I think if you look at pulses and vegetables in particular, I think they are the two components which have brought down overall inflation for the primary articles. Now, when we're looking at things like the manufactured products, I think this is something which is a continuation of what we had witnessed in the past too. We have not seen the companies actually increase their prices on account of higher raw material prices which they incurred in 22 and 23. So that kind of a trend also continues as of today. Also, we should remember that on account of global commodity prices in general being very, very hospitable, I think that is the positive influence which we have seen also when you're looking at inflation of manufactured products. So on the whole, I think this number more on expected lines. There could possibly be some kind of an upward movement, especially after what we are seeing happening in West Asia, where the crude oil prices, if they remain higher, is something which could impact the WPI more than the CPI. So this is something which will go up, but to my mind, this would be very much within control. So even if we're talking of a 10% increase, I don't see the dip in crude oil prices on a sustained basis. We will not see the WPI moving up by more than maybe 0.4 or 0.5% at the aggregate level.
Right, Mrs. Sabnavis, hi, this is Ankita also joining in. Mrs. Sabnavis, now that the numbers have come in line with what we were penciling in fact, food inflation that has been sticky for very long has now cooled off considerably. And now, with, the rate cut that we saw coming through, 50 bips rate cut coming in, food inflation easing, how do you see the consumption to pick up going ahead? And also talk to us about, the urban consumption that had been a pain point. Now, rural consumption was fine. We were fine with rural consumption, but what about the urban consumption and consumption going ahead?
Yes, we could be expecting the lower inflation rates, both on WPI and CPI, to have a positive impact on overall consumption. And if you also look in terms of the fiscal benefits which are being given by the government to prop up consumption, I think that is something which is going to play out. And the kind of a scenario which we had last year, where urban consumption was pressurized on account of higher food inflation in particular, is not something which is going to get replicated throughout this year, assuming that the good monsoon which has been projected materializes and we have a normal Kharif and Rabi harvest in both October, November, as well as April, May of next year.
All right, Mr. Sabnavis, with this, we'll let you go on that. Thank you so much for taking the time out and helping us with your take on the WPI numbers.